I was home alone on this one particular night. It was a very stormy day with heavy rain. My parents were away to go to a funeral, but I never knew the person, so I guess it didn't matter to me. But I wasn't completely alone. My older brother Mason was also home, so I was playing on my gaming console tonight. I was playing an FPS game or something, I couldn't remember. And I knew exactly when it happened. I think I was about to win the game, until the power cut. I couldn't see anything at all, and being a scared 8th grader I went over to Mason. When I got to his room, I find him asleep on his bed. I wake him up to tell him the lightning cut the power. It took a while, but I did manage to get him out of bed. Our house didn't have a basement, so the power box wasn't there. It was actually outside, by the side of our house. So both of us went outside towards the power box. But something didn't make sense all of a sudden. The houses around us still had their power. And when Mason went to check on the power box, he comes back with some strange news. The wires look like they had been tampered with, but there could have been any reason for this. So after fixing the power box, Mason and I go back to safety. After we go back inside, we both go back to what we were doing. I turned my console back on and relaunched my game. But as I was doing so, I heard some rummaging upstairs. But I assumed it was just Mason going back to bed, so I go back to concentrating on my game. But shortly after, I hear Mason scream. I was confused on why. Then I heard rapid footsteps. I looked to see Mason bolting down the stairs. Then he grabbed me by the arm and ran out of the house. Then we were out in the cold, stormy streets. I asked Mason what he saw, but he didn't seem to answer me. All he did was go to the neighbor's house. So we did. After Mason explained what happened, our neighbor called our parents. Apparently, Mason was going back to bed until he heard some kind of tap. He rummaged around his room until he looked under his bed and saw a gross-looking man looking right back at him. So he screamed and ran out, and here we are now. It didn't take long for me to know how the man even came into our house. So we stayed at our neighbor's house for the rest of the night, and when morning finally came, our parents also came home. With them back, Mason and I felt safe to go back to the house. Luckily, nothing was stolen from the previous night, but Mason did find some stuff under his bed, stuff that was a little too personal to talk about. But ever since that night, I fear being home alone, and I wish nobody would ever experience fear this much. My family took a vacation to paradise. We had been preparing this trip for months, and now it finally came. We went during late summer, where it wouldn't be too busy. As we arrived at the place, it did take a while, but we finally managed to reach the hotel and relax after a long flight. The hotel was nice, and everything you could imagine was there. So, hours passed, and we left to eat up as we were all starving. After that, my family went to bed. I was one of the first to fall asleep, but at around 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning, I awoke feeling thirsty, so I go to the kitchen to get some cold water. And when I got back to the room, I heard something strange. I thought I heard the sound of an electric buzz. It was very strange to hear, but I just assumed that it was the air conditioner, so I go back to sleep. The next day, my parents and siblings wanted to go to the beach, but I never really liked it there, so I stayed in the room. After my family left, I started to binge watch on my tablet, but as I was watching, I heard it again. I heard what sounded like an electric buzz. Now, I started to become suspicious. The air conditioner was off this time, so it couldn't have been that. In fact, nothing in the hotel was on except for my tablet. I started to feel worried for myself. Now I can hear the sound more frequently than last night, so I decided to follow it where the sound was coming from. I was circling the room until I got a sense of where it was. When I did, I slowly followed the sounds. It led to my room, towards my closet. I didn't know what to expect in there, so I gathered the courage to open it. With one boost of confidence, I opened the closet door, but there was nothing inside there. It didn't make sense. This was where the sound was coming from. But then, I noticed another door tucked in the corner. So I opened that one. It revealed to be the air conditioner, but that wasn't what I was looking at. No, there was a hidden camera in this room. It looked to be in a position where you could see my bed. I suddenly didn't feel safe in the room anymore, so I ran out of the room and towards the lobby. But that was when I bumped into my family. I explained to them what I just saw, and they were shocked. I asked the guy at the desk why there was a camera in the hidden room, but he told me that there wasn't supposed to be a camera in any of the rooms. Now I was beyond scared. Someone was stalking me in that room. My parents demanded for a new room, so we were transferred into a new room without a camera. Then the vacation continued as normal, but I couldn't forget what had happened. Someone with bad intentions was stalking me in that room. I don't know who, but I know it wasn't going to end well. Now, I get scared whenever I go to a hotel now. It started out as it normally did. So I was doing homework with my best friend Lila. We had a big project that was due tomorrow, so we worked for hours all the way to late night. After we were done, we decided to get a late night snack. So I drove the both of us to a 24-hour fast food restaurant. After we ordered, we sat down to wait for our food. But as we were, Lila kept tapping my shoulder. She kept telling me that there was someone staring at her. I looked, and there was a man that looked much older than us. I told her not to worry about it, and he'll eventually go away. But as time passed, he stayed in the same position, and after we were done eating, we decided to leave. But right when we were about to get up, the man comes towards us. He starts talking to us in an uncomfortable position. Then he tried to have small talk with us. Lila told the guy that we were trying to leave, but he didn't seem to get the message. This guy was relentless. He refused to let us leave the restaurant. So an employee came and told the guy to back off. Then we managed to leave. As I drove to Lila's house, she looked uncomfortable. She couldn't stop thinking about the man. I told her it was over now and it will be okay. So I arrived at her house and said goodbye to her. Then I drove to my house. The next day, when I got to school, it was weird. I didn't see Lila anywhere at all today. She wasn't in any of my classes, and she didn't respond to any of my texts. Now I knew something was up. So after a long day of nonstop work, I drove to Lila's house. But when I arrived, the front door was wide open. I run up the porch and enter the house. I didn't see any major changes, but I didn't see Lila anywhere. So naturally, I called the police to report Lila missing. But after I explained her description, the police said that she was at the local police station. So I drive over to the police station. When I got there, I asked to see Lila, and when I got to her, I was relieved to see that she was okay. Then she started to explain everything. After I dropped her off at her house, she went to bed, but as she was getting ready, she noticed a car that was unfamiliar. It parked right in front of her house. At first, she didn't think anything of it. That was until she heard the front door knob being turned. But when whoever that was found out it was locked, they kicked the door until it finally bursted open. Lila hid in her room and under her bed. Her parents weren't home, and her brother was camping, so she was alone. But as she hid, she heard a familiar voice. She put two and two together and realized it was the same man from the restaurant. He had followed her home. Lila then heard the man open every door in the house, and when he finally reached Lila's room door, her only escape route was out the window. So she opened her window and looked back. It wouldn't be long before her door would give in, so she jumped out her window. After falling 2 stories, She looks up to see the man staring down below. Then she ran away and called the police. When her parents found out what had happened, they were in tears. The police tried to locate the man, but long story short, they couldn't find him. This isn't a personal story of mine, but it still scares me to this day.